So, okay, so here we are, and we coming to the end of the month of Elul, the month of Menachem Av, and we had our highs and our lows, the Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av, and now we're right at the end of Menachem Av, and I just want to read a couple extracts from the Hayom Yom. So I'm gonna mute because otherwise it's hard for me to teach. But if you want to unmute and you have a question, then you'll unmute. So there's a couple Hayom Yoms that I thought were really interesting. I like to read Hayom Yoms because they give us little pieces of Chassidus, and those little insights of Chassidus straight from the teachings of the Rebbeim I always find very instructive. So this is just from a couple days ago. It's that the month of Elul is a month of reckoning. In the material world, if a businessman is to make sure that his business is as it ought to be and yields great profit, he must periodically take an accounting and correct all the deficiencies. Likewise, in the spiritual abode of serving Hashem, throughout the year, all of Israel are occupied with Torah mitzvot and developing and expressing good traits. The month of Elul is the month of reckoning, when every Jew, each according to his abilities, whether scholar or businessman, has to make an accurate accounting in his soul of everything that occurred in the course of the year. Each must know the good qualities in his service of Hashem, strengthen them. He must also be aware of the deficiencies in himself and his service and correct these. Though through this excellent preparation, he merits a good and sweet year, materially and spiritually. So that's just like a very straight up kind of warm up to the teachings about Elul, which I thought was like a nice warm up. Then for yesterday, it was, there are two general approaches in healing a bodily illness: to heal the particular organ or faculty that is defective, sick or weak, and then to strengthen everything else that is healthy. Now, obviously, in today's world, where we have so much talk about fighting illness and overcoming illness, the idea of heal the particular organ, but strengthen everything else that's already well, the immune system, etc. So it's the same thing in a spiritual aspect, that we do teshuvah, but we don't only do teshuvah, we also do good deeds at the same time. So we're not just, there's an expression, sur meira, leave the bad, but also do the good. So it's not only the preoccupation of, well, I shouldn't do this anymore, and I shouldn't do that anymore, and I should stay away from this place and stay away from that place. It's also, I should strengthen myself, give myself positive experiences, joyful, dancing, healthful, social experiences, doing the good. So in a spiritual way, this would be doing the mitzvot, not only being preoccupied with the teshuvah of that which we need to repair. And the last little piece, which I think is is the deepest one, which is for a couple days from now. And I really like this one because it makes this very beautiful teaching on the importance of what one wants to do. Identifying what one wants, looking for what one wants, and being in touch with what one wants. Because if we want to do something, we'll find out that we will find a way to do that, whether it's more mitzvahs, whether that's teshuvah, whether that's hachnasas orchim, whatever it is that we want, we're going to find a way to do what we want. And if we don't want it, we're not going to be able to do it. So this next teaching is really about how do we work on what it is that we want so that we want the right things, because that's really the big trick, is wanting the right things. So let me read it inside, because I think it's very profound. And then if you have any comments, we can stop and talk about it. The children of Israel are called Eretz Chafetz, which is the desirable land. So we've been compared to the land of Israel, which is a desirable land, Eretz Chafetz, but you could play on it, which is the desiring, the land of desiring. So the people of Israel are called Eretz, the land, or the desired land, Eretz Chafetz. Chafetz is what's desired or desirable. For they possess numerous precious articles in the love and fear of Hashem. And they possess numerous precious articles in their good midot as well. But bringing these trays, these treasures, these buried qualities to the surface depends entirely upon the individual stimulating them. So a person could have all these treasures, love and fear of Hashem, good midas, but they could all be like treasures buried in the sand, in the soil. It is clear that throughout the earth are well springs of living water. So now, instead of saying treasures, the teaching here is about water. The difference between this person and that person, or the difference between this water and that water, is only that some are near the surface and others are buried further down. And so everything therefore depends on the well digger and the strength and the patience and the perseverance of the one who's digging the wells. So this is really good for chinuch or for parenting, if you're a teacher, to understand that everybody has the water buried underneath their sand. It's just sometimes the water is closer to the surface, other times it's more buried, but how patient is the well digger and how much perseverance do they have? Now, sincere ratzon, will, is a superior faculty that issues decrees. It rules over all the other faculties and compels them to act according to its orders. It follows that the essential work is to arouse one's will to exercise its effect both upon the person and upon others. So in other words, everything is governed by what we choose and what we want, and we the ones who are going to decide to dig in and bring out these precious qualities, jewels, water, whatever. It's all about the will. If we have the will to bring it out, that's what we're going to bring out. If we don't have the will to bring it out, it's not going to be brought out. Just stop me and ask them. So coming into Elul, Elul, the energy of Elul, and everything that I'm going to say comes from Sefer Yetzirah, essentially, which is a book that people say was written by Avraham Avinu, and then different Kabbalists bring down these themes and work and tribe and everything month per month. So I love learning them. I feel like they give me a good orientation for the month, and I'd like to share them with you. So the energy of Elul is the month Ani ledodi vedodi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. So the astrological sign is Virgo, the virgin woman, a young woman. So it's the only astrological sign that's actually feminine. And it's the idea of innocence and purity of the virgin. It's also the idea of a feminine energy is arousal from below up to elicit what's above to come down. So the energy of Nisan, for example, the month when we come out of Egypt, the month of Pesach, is an energy from top down. Hashem shows his force and he shows his might and he takes us out of Egypt. That's energy from the top down. but energy of Elul is our opening ourselves to the relationship, opening ourselves to self-examination, like we read in the Hayom Yom, the business reckoning, the businessman making a reckoning of the month. We opening ourselves up to this more intimate relationship with Hashem. And the famous Hasidic saying, the idea that the king is in the field, he's not in his palace, he's available, he's present. And we are, and it's also a time that's connected to when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai, pleading and requesting Hashem's forgiveness, and for Hashem to forgive the Jewish people so that the relationship could get back onto solid footing after the tremendous sin of the idol, the construction of the golden calf. So the energy of it is, for us in our personal experience, it's returning to the inner stillness within change. So it's about going inward, really. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the hero in the Bible story. He went up to Har Sinai and he's praying for the Jewish people. He's praying for forgiveness, but within each of our own selves, within our own experience, we're going into our inner places and looking for forgiveness, not to forgive ourselves, to forgive people we're in relationship with who have hurt us, to forgive even Hashem if we feel he's hurt us, to work on this relationship, but by going inward, returning to the inner stillness within change. So it's an interesting aspect. So the sign is Virgo. The Hebrew letter of this month is the letter Yud, which I'll speak about. The Hebrew tribe is Gad. The divine name, each month, the 4 letters of Hashem's name come down. The energy comes down in a slightly different way. And the way the energy comes down is summarized by how the Hebrew letters are sort of structured in this month. So the Yud, K, Vav, K name of Hashem in this month would be Hey, Hey, Vav, Yud. I'll speak about that in a minute. And the holiday is the Slichot, the prayers of forgiveness that we say starting from Motzei Shabbos once it's Elul already. So this idea of forgiveness, of seeing how do we forgive anyone else who's injured us, how do we forgive ourselves for mistakes we've made. The most important thing is believing that everything is Hashgacha Pratis, everything is Hashem's guiding hand in everything. We know that anger is the biggest avodah zarah, because if we're angry about something, it means we don't trust that Hashem was instrumental in bringing it to happen. So this month is the headquarters for Teshuvah, for returning to our inner wholeness, our inner essential beauty, our potential, our innate connection with the divine. So if we really understand that that connection was never really broken, it's always intact. It's just that we don't feel the connection because we've allowed barriers to come in the midst of that connection. So this would be the time when we're trying to strip away those barriers. From the beginning of the second day of Elul, the shofar is sounded 4 times every day. There's 4 soundings of it every day. The days are shorter, the air is cooler. And talking about this sign of the Basula, the Virgin, so this capacity to receive this unique goodness that an inward person can find. So going inward, time of review and assessment, a time, if it's been a difficult time, and for all of us it's been a crazy time, I mean, to just acknowledge how crazy the times are, and everybody's in a place of discombobulation, not knowing what's going on, to call out to Hashem to intensify, renew this relationship. Okay. So in Elul, there's the flow. There is still the flow from above to below, but it needs to be initiated from down below. So we make the opening, and the light, the blessings come down. It's a good time to reach out and fix relationships. Time of forgiveness. So time to complete unfinished business, do the work of tshuva, forgive Hashem, forgive yourself, forgive friends, replace the inner critic with the inner caretaker, access the witness aspect of ourselves, deepen our relationship with Hashem. So what does it mean to access the witness aspect of ourselves? So if we understand that we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, we are not our mistakes, but we can kind of observe that bracha thinks this way or bracha behaves this way, but I, the witness, am objective, and I can not be pulled into that, and I can look at that, I can criticize it, I can stand aside from those aspects. I take myself out of myself so I can look at my behavior, and instead of just judging and criticizing myself, I can caretake myself into better choices, better actions. So what does it mean that this is feminine energy? So feminine energy is grounded, it's detail orientated, it's practical. The sign, the Virgo sign, Karina's saying here, self-care, personal audit. Yes, self-care, personal audit. I like that very much so. So, all right, so let's just go on to this, the Hebrew letter being the letter Yud. So many beautiful things about the letter Yud, that each month has its own letter, and the letter Yud is the month of Elul. So Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world. Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of mankind, but the birthday of the world is I guess 6 days before that. So Elul precedes Rosh Hashanah. That's when the birth of the world is in Elul. Rosh Hashanah would be the day that man is created. Rosh Hashanah is not when the world is created, but when mankind is created, which is very interesting. And I just have to check that. I don't want to, I just have to double check that. But the fact is that Elul is this Yud, and everything starts with the Yud. The whole of creation started with the Yud. And it's the single point. Every Hebrew letter starts with the Yud, and from that Yud, we make the whole letter. So according to Kabbalah, creation began with the Yud. It's the original point and entry of the infinite into the finite. So that's what Elul is. It's this time of new beginnings, new thoughts, new feelings, new headspaces, new ratzon, new desire to dig new wells. It's this beginning energy. And Yud is also the smallest, tiniest letter. So it's this idea of bittul, this being small, this reducing oneself to a small space. And it's also the soul coming close to Hashem, this union of this small we make ourselves small, and the smaller we make ourselves, the more space there is for Hashem to fill our vessel. So in the usual writing of Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, or Yud Hey Vav Hey, the Yud represents Chokhmah, wisdom. The Yud is the first letter of the word Yisrael. The Yud is the first letter of the word Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's the first letter in the name for many prophets, Yehoshua, Yirmiyahu, Yeshaya, Yoel. It's the letter 10. Yud is equal to the numerical value of 10, which is 1 plus 0, which comes back to 1. So it's this incredible letter of starting point, beginning point, change, new beginning. We've got 10 fingers, we've got 10 toes, we've got 10 sfirot, 10 commandments, 10 in a minyan. But each of those 10 are the letter 10. You take off the 0 and you've got 1 again. So the 10 fingers, the 10 toes, they're part of your essential being. The sfirot come to really, it's Hashem dividing into all these aspects, but he's essentially one. The same with the 10 commandments. They many commandments, but they all about living in connection with the divinity of Hashem. So there's an interesting thing. There's this spreading out into different aspects, but essentially all those aspects represent a starting point, a unifying point, an essential point, the beginning point, which is what Elul is all about. And then the tribe of Gad. So just before I move on into the tribe, I just want to check if there's any. Okay, so if we're talking about Elul, just before I go into more details about the tribe of Gad and about the letters, Yud Kei, Vav Kei, whatever, what is so powerful about the month of Elul, and why is it, you know, we're going to hear the shofar every day in Elul, and if you can't go to shul, which, you know, I don't go to shul every day, it's really good if you can hear it even online, the blowing of the shofar. If you lived in a place where there was somebody walking around with the shofar and you could hear it, if, you know, you have a family member who could blow it for you, or but now we can do everything on audio, and I'm sure on Chabad.org they're going to have someone blowing the shofar, and it's really an amazing thing to hear, because it's this like waking up, you know, wake up call all the time. So what is it about Elul that's so compelling and so important? And I think it's really an important thing to describe and to talk about, which is that Hashem is in a way going to pour down his new light into whatever vessel we can create in ourselves during the month of Elul. That Elul is, and I've said this, Karina's heard me say it before, I think it's a very powerful way of explaining the work of Elul, which is that if you imagine that Elul is creating the vessel, the mold into which Hashem is going to pour the light, the blessing, the shefa of the new year, of our new year. So if we prepare our vessel, and our vessel is kind of like this, you know, whatever shape it is, that's going to define and determine what is going to come down for us in the new year. So this is this fluid time. This is a time when we create the vessel, and Tishrei is the beginning of the new year. It's the beginning of, you know, the proclamation of our belief that God is king. But in a way, relationships don't just come out of a vacuum. And Karina's also heard me saying this very many times before, that we always compare. One of the ways to look at this time is to compare it to relationship with dating, a courtship, dating, an engagement, a wedding, and then the time of Sheva Brachot. So where we are in Elul is a kind of a dating process, and with this dating process, we want Hashem to find us. We're the feminine counterpart to Hashem's masculine counterpart, so to speak. The whole of Bnei Israel is a feminine entity, and we want to encourage Hashem to make the commitment to us, and we are opening ourselves to make the commitment to him. We can't just get engaged without the dating process. And in that dating process, we are opening and orientating ourselves so that we can get ready to this commitment. On Rosh Hashanah, we're going to say yes to Hashem. Yes, we want to be in this relationship. Yes, we want to make this marriage work. Yes, we're committing to this intimacy with you. Yes, you're the only one. Yes, we're going to be the loyal wife. But this is where we've got to say to ourselves, do I have any, and I don't mean to sound crass, but do I have any unfinished business with any old boyfriends, so to speak? Do I feel like I'm ready to make a commitment? Maybe before I make a commitment to marriage, I have to just take care of this or just take care of that. And then when you come to Rosh Hashanah, you're like, yes, I'm getting engaged. We are getting engaged. And then on Yom Kippur, there's the wedding. So maybe it's even helpful for me to share my little personal story that before I met my husband, I said to the woman who was going to make my shidduch, I said, I'm not ready to get married. I want to do a master's degree in fine art. And I ran away. I like that little laugh. I ran away to Boston, and I was going to go check out colleges where I could do a master's in fine art. And then I got to Boston and I thought, no, this isn't what I want to be doing. I don't want to be doing this. And I came back in the middle of Pesach, and I said to my friend, no, I am in fact ready to get married, and I'm ready to meet, this guy you want me to meet. And then I met my husband at the end of Pesach, Shvi Shal Pesach. But I had to go to Boston and really get rid of that inclination so that I could then say, no, I don't want to do that. I've cleared, I'm ready, I'm available. So that's kind of the Elul period of, centering ourselves to get clear to the fact that we want a spiritual relationship with Hashem. We want a place within ourselves where we're loving and accepting and forgiving ourselves, and we're dealing with unfinished business, and we forgiving, and we calling people up with whom we have unresolved issues, and we calling them and fixing things, and we working on this so that we can come to Rosh Hashanah, which is not about forgiveness. It's about new beginnings, but it's also about saying, I'm ready, I'm here, I'm clean, I'm clear, I'm open, I'm available, let's move ahead. And then the davening of Rosh Hashanah, Hashem is king. Hashem is king. Hashem is my king. Hashem is king of the world. So that's the energy of this time. And we can't have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur if we don't have this previous experience. And on Yom Kippur, it's like once we've made that commitment, then we have that intimacy moment of going into the Yichud room and being one with God. It's just, very intimate, etc. I want to share this piece about the tribe of Gad because I just love this. I've never learned it before, and I think it's very helpful. Each tribe is connected to a month. Each month is connected to a tribe. And the tribe of this month is connected to the tribe of Gad. And Gad is one of the children of Yaakov that came after Leah gave her maidservant Zilpah to Yaakov. So we know that Leah and Rachel were married to Yaakov, and Leah had a bunch of children. In fact, she had, I believe, 4 sons. And then Rachel never had any sons, and she was trying to have sons. She had a maidservant, Bilhah, And then she gave Bila to Yaakov, and she said, maybe Bila will have like a surrogate. She'll have children for me, and they'll be like my children. So Bila had some, I don't know if she had two before Leah gave, I don't know if she had one child or two children. But then Leah, seeing that Rachel had given her maidservant and was having children through her surrogate, Leah decided that she also could have more sons through a surrogate. And so she gave Zilpah to Yaakov, and the son that came out of that, the first son that came out of that union was Gad. So Gad means good fortune. And this name is a sign of the good energy of this month. But more interesting than that, which the part that I really liked, is that when they were coming into Eretz Yisrael, the tribes of Reuven and Gad didn't want to go into the land. They wanted to stay on the other side of the Jordan because they said that that land was much more fertile for all of their cattle. And maybe they wanted to stay with Moshe Rabbeinu, even though he had passed away, like people like to stay by the kever of the tzaddik, by the grave of the tzaddik. So they didn't want to go in. And Moshe said, no, you could stay on the other side of Jordan as long as you come into Eretz Yisrael with us when we have to fight our wars against the occupying nations in the land of Israel. And after that, you could go back and live outside of the land of Israel. But anytime we have a war, you have to come in and fight the wars with us. So that's what happened. And Moshe blessed them with extraordinary strength and good fortune. And it says that when they did do the conquest of the land of Israel, the tribe of Gad marched in front of the other tribes, and were right there, right in front. But when they moved back, they lived on the border, and they protected the land of Israel on that border, and that was their one of their tasks. It's interesting, when they were marching in, so that was their task, being on the border. So, and then also guarding the burial place of Moshe Rabbeinu. So one of the explanations that I was reading was that God doesn't only protect the borders, but he protects the borders of the year. Like this year is ending, this next year is starting. He defines and protects boundaries. Now, when we trying to do the work of Elul, this work of working on ourselves so that we can open up to the best possible relationship with Hashem, we need to have good boundaries. Boundaries between what's past, what's present, and what's in the future. Not being overly attached to the past, that's never a good idea. Good boundaries with other people, like what's my problem, what's their problem? Can I define my needs and my wants? That's a boundary issue. Can I take responsibility for what's my stuff as opposed to what's their stuff? So I thought that was very nice, that's an aspect of Gad. Also says that Eliyahu will come from the tribe of Gad, and he blows the shofar. He will blow the shofar when we come back into the land of Israel, when we get Mashiach, when we've really returned to ourselves. Before we have the break and ask questions, I'll just tell you this last piece about the order of, well, let me break and just see if anybody wants to. Okay, so the last little piece is looking at the name of Hashem as it comes down, which would be the energy of how things are coming down, how Hashem's energy is coming down this month. So we know that the way the spiritual world is organized, or how do I say this? We have different worlds of existence. We have the lowest world is a physical world. Above that is a world of emotion, in a way. Above that is a world of thought, and above that is a transcendent world above thought. That's one way of defining the four worlds. Another way of defining the four worlds is in the highest world, it's just Hashem. It's Hashem, it's called Atzilut. It's a world, a very spiritual world. You come down, there's Hashem's kind of desire and starting to form and create a more physical world, but it's still like in a conceptual realm. Then there's the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, and then the world of action. So we have four worlds. And the same way that we have four worlds, with each world, as we come down, being more physical, the world of action, going up to the world of just godliness. We have the four letters of Hashem's name, and each month a different letter goes in a different place, a different letter takes its place on the four levels. So Hashem's four letters in his name are, in the way his name is usually, is a Yud and a Hey, and then a Vav and a Hey. And we always say that Hashem's name is like that, but every month, energetically, it reorganizes itself a little bit. And this month, the way it is in the upper realms, it's a Hey, Hey, Vav, Yud. So the Yud is in the world of action. It's a very small little Yud. It's a world of action. So that's sort of suggesting that in this time, it's not so, it's about, the action is a little bit smaller. It's not so much about do. It's more about think and internalize and contemplate and this tshuva process and this internal process and this opening oneself to one's spiritual self. So the Yud is small. Then in the emotional realm, it's this Vav, this channel, this kind of connecting letter. And then in the higher worlds, it's Hey, and in the highest world, another Hey. And even in the shape of the letters, Hey is a wide opening shape. Hey, Hey, and then Vav is a channel. It's a long straight line, and then Yud is this teeny tiny little spot. So what do we learn from that? So in the higher realms, it's very expansive. God is very, it's very open and it's very expansive, but we kind of need to bring it down. How do we bring it down? We bring it down through this heart-centeredness, Anila Dodiva Dodili. We opening to this, in a way, romantic relationship with Hashem. It's a heart-centeredness. And it's actually, the Vav is in, so it's in, the Vav, the Vav is in its usual position because Hashem's name is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, and now we in Hey, Hey, Vav, Yud. So the fact, what we can learn that the Vav is in its usual position is, again, this is the heart-centeredness, that the heart is actually the channel through which we can draw down this light. And the energy of the month is this reflective, contemplative energy rather than an active energy. So if you just imagine it, even in the pictures of it, of the letters, on the higher realms, it's expansive, lots of energy in that spiritual realm, but we need to pull it down through opening our heart. And then in the active world, it's contemplative, inward, spiritual, tshuva, self-examination, self-forgiveness, a lot of inner work in this aspect of preparing the vessel. And I wanted to say, what did I want to say? I wanted to say something about the heart, heart-centered. It flew out of my mind. So, so we've got Hey, Hey, Vav, heart-centeredness, and Yud. So, oh, I know what I wanted to say. So on Tisha B'Av, when we were speaking about the reading of Eicha and how Yerushalayim was lying in ruins, and it was this terribly sad feeling of the Shechina being, you know, the present, the feminine aspect of Hashem being cast into exile, we brought up this idea of this emotional relationship between us and Hashem. And I just gave the analogy of the dating and the engagement and the wedding. This aspect of us being in relationship with Hashem, having this emotional relationship with Hashem, Ani ledodi v'dodi li, I am my beloved and my beloved, I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. It's this heart-centeredness. It's this heart opening to the fact that we want a relationship with Hashem. We want this emotional connection. We want to feel like we're in relationship with our spiritual self, with our higher self, with our godly self. We want to be able to talk to Hashem in our own language. We want to be able to pour our heart out to Hashem. We want this connection with this higher realm of reality. And this is the month when we prepare and decide, like a color dating, you know, what kind of relationship do we want to form with our new chosin that hopefully we will get engaged to, get married to, live happily ever after with, dance at, you know, through the Sheva Brochas and, you know, be able to enter our home, Eretz Yisrael, you know, live very happily, happy married couple, the Shechina and the Chassan, you know, together. What comes in the way of that is all the obstacles, the struggles, the mechitzas, the interferences, which really what our teachers are telling us, Mashiach is so close that a lot of those boundaries, a lot of those obstacles are just in our own mind. We attach to them, we think they're still there. We have the power to just jump over them, see that they're not really real, that we can really open our hearts and open ourselves to a beautiful connection with our own higher self, our own spiritual self, our own feeling of presence of God in a way that we weren't able to do before, because there were obstacles that are falling away as Mashiach gets close and close, and as the teachers are telling us, open, 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 and see how much of those obstacles are really just what we make in our own consciousness, and how much can we open to a new reality where those things are not limiting us at all, that we can be free for a much more intimate and unobstacled relationship with Hashem. So Bezrat Hashem, that should be the kind of world we're heading for, the year we're heading for, the relationship with Hashem that we're heading for, the relationship with ourselves that we're heading for, and may it be revealed, and may we experience it for real. And that's what I have for now. So thank you. I'll turn off the recording.